What's going on, everybody? I hope everyone's doing fantastic today. I am here with a very special guest today. I am here with my main man, T-Bird, who actually just started his own YouTube channel. So, guys, make sure to go subscribe to T-Bird. T-Bird, how you guys doing? How you doing today?
Good, Corey. Thanks for having me on your stream. A pleasure and honor. It's been a long time coming. I've been following your stream for a very long time, and you've been very consistent with all your content and your output. You deserve a lot of respect and credit for all the work and energy that you put into the content you've put out over the years, and all your contributions to the Pulse Chain ecosystem and Hex as well.
No, I appreciate that, man. I'm trying my best. It's sometimes it's not easy, man. It really isn't. It's especially right now with a bull market that is questionable at best. And I'm just happy that Richard is basically back in the picture now, given that whole debacle has finally concluded. But yeah, no, I appreciate that. I've been trying my best, and that brings up a good point. Like being consistent, and a lot of the content I've had is basically about third-party projects on Pulse Chain. It's my question to you is like these SAC projects. A lot of these SAC projects raised so much money. I'm not even talking about the core coins. I'm talking about like the SAC projects, the third-party projects that launched on Pulse Chain. They've raised so much money. They've created decentralized applications, but like I don't see how they have basically improved upon in regards to outreach for Pulse Chain. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, a lot of the SAC Pro. I mean, I'm not sure whether we need to go into naming any of them necessarily, but yeah, I would say overall, I mean, we label them as SAC projects, but I think a lot of they're basically just sort of almost like they're like ICOs in disguise.
Yes.
And they haven't. Yeah, I would say a lot of them definitely haven't lived up to what they've basically what they haven't given back what they've equivalent to what they've taken with regards to what's been taken from the community from a monetary standpoint. And my only hope is that at the very least, even from just a marketing standpoint, they start to get a lot more at the forefront, and to actually show some strength and courage out there, despite the fact that prices are down and sentiment is down with that. But the thing is, like I think what we'll see is, as prices start to move upwards, as we sort of progress through the rest of this year, assuming of course that the bull market cycle pattern / trend
right.
does what we what a lot of us expect it to do, then I think a lot of them will start to get a lot more vocal and a lot more active.
Go ahead.
People generally just need to be very mindful and careful of whichever projects or sacrifices that they get involved with, because a lot of them can easily be rugs.
Yeah.
And just a way of extracting, economic energy in the form of the core coins predominantly, and
right.
Then they either bridge out, or they just people just need to be. And I think like people that have been around in crypto long enough now, we've learned a lot of the shady methods and shady tricks that a lot of them use to try to Anyway, what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, no, it's funny. So, like, as somebody who came into this ecosystem almost 4 years ago now, creating the niche to be able to give projects a platform there are some days where I'm like, wow, I kind of regret this. And when I say regret this, I mean like not streaming for Pulse Chain, but like regret giving so many of these projects on a platform because, and again, like I'm not naming any specifically, but like when I see the same people liking the same tweets, I see stagnation in a lot of the Hex and Pulse Chain YouTubers, including myself, and Twitter followers, and I don't see the marketing that I would like to see from different projects that raised 6 figures, 7 figures, 8 figures, and they're not doing anything besides creating dApps for pre-existing users. I mean, that's just, you're dooming yourself to stay in the same room constantly. And even Richard brought this up, and I want to talk about that a little bit later, but like it proves the point that a lot of these projects, they're allocating funds to, yeah, they're dApps and stuff like that, but they're not allocating funds to grow the platform and grow the ecosystem. I'm not saying all of them, but there are many that are just stagnating in regards to their user base. And also, a lot of these SAC projects launched with a token, and a lot of these SAC projects have done very, very poorly regarding token performance. And that could be a number of factors. That could be, market sentiment overall, user bases of platforms, but still, I mean, it doesn't look good for a lot of dApps in that respect. And I do agree with what you said, that as this bull market does grow, I mean, you're already seeing people come out of the woodwork that we haven't seen in years, start streaming again and start coming back because of the state of the market right now, where I don't know, I'm assuming, I'm not a financial advisor, but I'm assuming we're in some type of optimistic state right now. But I do think I would hope that these projects get louder as the bull market presses on.
Yeah, and I'll just to expand upon what you just said there. When it comes to, I tend to, if anyone gets into a conversation with me about, what sort of stuff to potentially look into investing in Pulse, I don't direct people to, by default to any of the, these, like potentially like look into investing anything that's done in the format of sacrificing, right, or basically that kind of format. I think overall, especially as as the years carry on from here in this point out, I think more and more people have become a lot more aware of how they operate.
Yes.
And so for example, like I had shout out to KG, the founder of Internet Money Wallet.
He's great.
What he's done with his product and how he's marketed it and his consistent everything. And I had him on my channel recently. He's the primary example of,
yes, he is,
of what it means, what's the most optimum way to go about marketing oneself with integrity and actually everything that he says publicly and declares publicly is matched with what he actually puts out there. It's kind of like you use the analogy of, it's kind of like with politicians in the macro,
yes,
99.9% of the time they're not going to actually fulfill any. A lot of the stuff is theater. They don't really actually adhere to any of the policies or any of the things that they actually say publicly.
Of course,
it's all for show. It's like you can't have any expectations of them doing anything and fulfilling anything that they promise. So I think that as using Internet Money Wallet and the product and how they've evolved since they launched their product, and even before they launched their product, there was no yes, they've got a couple of tokens in their ecosystem, but it was done correctly without any kind of sacrifice, where you're basically extracting monetary energy from people up front.
Yep.
And then the people who put that in, because the thing is, like when Richard Ha basically did his sacrifices like all those years ago, it was the way he structured it was well, at least was perceived to be very novel in the context of ICOs, and even at a basic level, we understood that it was done with the purpose of, like, for his own legal protection, and
of course,
of his product as well. And I think, unfortunately, a decent sum of the people in the community at that time sort of in an unsavory way adopted that approach in how
they did
put tokens out, and didn't do it, and actually hasn't done it the right way, in the way that Richard Hart did it, because obviously they're just not, they don't have the same motives, intentions, and financial clout that Richard has.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Very well said. I mean, I agree. Like, KG is a perfect example. Like, I've always held internet money in a very high regard because of its capability to be a multi-chain faceted wallet, but also grow Pulse Chain in the process. And, I think that KG is actually one of the best developers on Pulse Chain. So I absolutely agree with that sentiment. And it goes to show that there is a way of doing this in a proper manner that can both grow the chain and also grow a product that someone has created as well. So I agree with that. And I want to talk now. I was going to leave this as the last topic, but I want to talk now with, Richard, because you brought up Richard, and financial clout and that type of paradigm. So Richard has basically conveyed that the biggest problem Pulse Chain has faced, and I've been saying this for years as well, is that Pulse Chain's marketing is rather subpar. It's an echo chamber like mentality. It's just basically us talking to each other rather than reaching out. And that can be, it's beneficial to keep the pre-existing community alive. There's no question about that. But what's difficult is when the pre-existing community is just circling, whether it be funds or whether it be joining joining different Telegram rooms, but in the same ecosystem. It doesn't look like there's a lot of outreach, and I've tried to do that in the past, with sometimes success, sometimes not. Do you think Richard is right in regards to the marketing, but do you also feel like Richard has to play a role in marketing this chain? Because, to be fair, the last, I would say, 2 years since Pulse Chain's inception, it's been majorly the community that has done a lot of the bootstrapping to get this off the ground. So what do you think about that?
At this stage, yeah. So I'll to answer your question. So yeah, it's a good question. So first of all, I'll say that I think it's more than okay for the community now at this stage in its life cycle to carry at least the majority of the responsibility of marketing, getting the word out, whether it's through the echo chamber in social media platforms like Twitter, or completely from the outside. And of course, it's difficult because when prices are still really down, and prices at the end of the day reflect the sentiment of the community.
Yes, it does.
Reflects the adoption rate and reflects the general feeling of what's going on in the community and the network. When that's all down, it can be hard for people to feel motivated to really go that extra mile to get to, at the very least, get out a little bit outside the echo chamber,
right?
The ecosystem, to talk about it with other people. Because at the end of the day, a lot of people, and just general retail investors, when you talk about stuff with them, most of the time they'll just be like, well, what's the performance at the moment? And when you tell the average investor that the prices are down, what are they going to do? They're just not going to be interested.
Exactly.
Because especially new people coming in, especially people that are inexperienced in crypto and just don't have a lot of financial IQ, they'll just be like they wait for the prices to go up and then they buy the tops. You know, we know how it works basically.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's sort of like it kind of feels like a bit of a catch-22 situation. But then again, you can also correlate it to the macro. And like generally, like Ethereum has been down as well, and a lot of ways, Pulse Chain along with a lot of the other ETH forks, like the L1 forks of ETH, either both spiritually and economically tied to the performance of Ethereum as well in a lot of ways.
Yes, I agree.
So, again, but again, going back to the marketing. I think at the end of the day, every single person in the community needs to sort of analyze for themselves and determine for themselves which form of marketing that they feel like would be the most effective for them, because there's no one size fits all. So for me, like I've found that my particular niche is on Twitter as a social media platform. I have done it for years, and and I've got some of my own. I do a fair bit of trolling outside of what's going on in a circular way within the ecosystem, and I find that can be a somewhat like it's sort of an interesting way of getting people within the Twitter sphere to start getting some attention here and there, but. Ultimately, the color of the candle does the talking. So
yes,
yeah, it's a tough one.
I agree with you absolutely, 100% true. That I think that the sentiment right now, like candles reflect the sentiment, and so does price. And this is all across the board. The totality of this market right now is terrible, with the exception of Bitcoin. Like if you look at the ETH and Bitcoin ratio, it's just awful. Like Ethereum has not performed with the expectation that many people have thought, including myself, and it's literally lagging the market in my opinion, because like you said, a lot of these layer ones and even meme coins and other dApps, they're dependent on ETH's performance as seen in 2017's run, as seen in 2021's run. It's rather reflective on that. And when ETH moves, like its move it did, last week from like 1700 to 24, you saw the market rally a consistent amount. I also think that a lot of people are so mentally drained from this market because of the amount of things that have happened over the last 4 years with no sense of reprieve. It looks, to be honest with you, you go from 2022 with all these different entities collapsing, and now it's 2025, and people have the thought process that this bull market should have started 6 months ago and ended around this time. It brings up, like, people feel very hopeless or confused. Why is this taking so long? Why does it look like there's no hope in sight? It looks like this is just people are questioning, well, is this just a Bitcoin run this cycle? Is this a cope cycle?
Yeah, I think we've seen like Bitcoin, like if we're just talking about Bitcoin in isolation, Bitcoin has essentially, apart from being sort of, appearing to be a bit more left translated, because it did its run through 2024, and
right,
and then topped, or we don't know yet whether it's like the top, which is very unlikely, but
right.
back in like the top that it made in January is sort of definitely appears to be sort of left translated, because it's basically means it's occurred earlier than it would have than it kind of did in terms of like the structure of the timings of what norm that it had in previous cycles. But apart from that, Bitcoin has done its usual thing. But
yes.
Solana sort of moved adjacently with Bitcoin on that run, and Solana because of everything that happened on Solana with the meme coin mania.
Yes.
2024, it ended up extracting a lot of the mind share away from
I agree.
Ethereum. And you saw that when you look at the ETH Sol ratio. You clearly see that on the chart. But that said, though, like in my personal opinion, and it's purely just, everything I say is not financial advice, just purely speculative and opinion. Just looking at the charts subjectively, Solana looks like it's, and alongside, in a lot of ways, together with Bitcoin, it looks very toppy. And I think the rotation has, and we just saw like a bit of a pump in Ethereum just I think about a week ago. I think it was.
Yes.
Some rotation started to come back in when ETH is now back about 2,500 US.
Yes. Yeah.
It's starting to feel like the rotation into some kind of old season is emerging. And in the context of the 4-year cycle, we're still only midway through quarter two, and there's still a lot can happen within a very short period of time.
I agree.
And suddenly, in the next sort of 6 to 7 months, even though 6 to 7 months in the big scheme of things doesn't sound like a long time, but as we know in crypto, 6 months can feel like an absolute eternity.
I agree. Go ahead.
So, I think. I just want to quickly go back to the marketing stuff with regard to Richard Hart and his role.
Sure.
Yeah, obviously, and Richard Hart, no matter who the founder is, no matter what ecosystem we're talking about, founder is always going to play a very important role in the overall sense of the ecosystem that the founder is attached to. And so it has been unfortunate that Richard Hart has been a lot more quiet than he used to be compared to the previous cycle, naturally because of the lawfare that's been directed upon him, foisted upon him. So it's more than understandable. But the really cool thing is that he's achieved the regulatory clarity and established the legal precedent now with his victory against the SEC, both for himself and for Hex Pulse Chain and PulseX, that the community, in the context of marketing, can reinforce that data point specifically as a way of punching through the noise and attempting to get a lot of that extra positive sentiment back into the ecosystem.
Yes,
it really is huge. I think in some ways it doesn't feel like it's that big because the industry, the crypto industry as a whole, has, for the most part, not given it the respect and credit it's deserved yet.
I agree.
I think it will come, and it has in a lot of ways. It's relatively recent. Like the news only broke, I think it was about 2 weeks ago, maybe just over 2 weeks ago. So it might just take some time for the market to actually catch on and realize the gravity of this legal victory against the SEC, which will then also snowball into the red notice, the Interpol red notice, eventually getting taken off. So I think in some way there's always that possibility that Richard Hart is still, to an extent, gagged in terms of what he can and
of course.
And you know how he is with regards to privacy, especially in the context of something as even regardless of how we want to perceive or label the charges that they're trying to pin on him, which I think are blatantly false. He still needs to be mindful until that is 100%, I think. But the thing is, like, the SEC victory was the big one. So I think if he can, the more active that he is, and the more that he reverses like the trend that it has been like, while he's been mostly absent. It'll do wonders for the sentiment of the community itself, Pulse Chain and X. but I think it'll help to set the alt season ablaze for sure.
Yeah, no, I agree with everything you said, and like you said slowly, and I agree it's slow, regards to the acceptance and the positive sentiment around Richard. I've seen a few tweets actually from mainstream influencers that have been actually coming out of the woodwork, which I'm very surprised about. For example, Jason A. Williams, maybe you guys would, some of you know who he is, a big crypto enthusiast, if that's it. I think that's his name. I'm not sure if he wrote a book or not. I believe that he did, but he's been a big name in the Twitter crypto space for quite some time, and he basically highlighted on his tweet that like Richard is like the smartest person in crypto, and everyone wishing for his downfall like was ridiculous. And then you have Ansem, ANSEM. He posted a reply to someone with basically talking about the Hex and Pulse Chain community, saying, "I think they'll be all right, bro," and then highlighting like the Richard's victory. So I think big names are actually are aware of this. It's just a matter of right now, like, who holds the disdain still for this community, and who's still unwilling to talk about it. Who has the disdain for Richard still, and who's not willing to talk about it. Also, the market plays a role. People, the views on YouTube and Twitter, they're just not what they are in a bull market, because everyone's either bored or everyone's waiting to come back. So I agree with you. And the last thing I want to ask you before we end, but I just want to say to everyone, guys, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. And also, T-Bird, do you want to plug your channel as well?
Sure. So people who want to check out my content, my primary go-to is on Twitter X, and it's x.com/TheRealTBirdX. And my YouTube channel is at tbird369. So yeah, I've started putting out some video content on YouTube as of about a couple of months ago. So just doing what I can, what I need to do to push out as much content.
Awesome.
Especially while the sentiment is still a bit down. And yeah, a lot of people in the community are still doing it tough, but yeah, I'm still maintaining bullish vibes through the rest of this year, and yeah, it's important for a lot of us to just hold the line and we just do what we have to do to push on.
Absolutely. No, very well said, guys. Make sure to subscribe to T-Bird's channel. I see that if we count Twitter, there's like 190 people watching almost. So make sure to follow and subscribe to T-Bird's channel and follow him on Twitter as well. So T-Bird, I want to ask you this last question, and I think it's an important one. So like, for the longest time, obviously because of, certain things, people had speculation on what the SAC funds are, whatever. And a couple of weeks ago, I think, maybe even just a week ago, Richard made, a rather, he alluded to something that I was very surprised about him saying, basically out loud. There was a tweet that someone made about ETH reserves that different projects have. And Richard basically came out and said, "You're missing one." And basically, with that being said, regarding those ETH reserves, it basically proved what people were theorizing, what people were speculating, that there is a treasury, there is a reserve for Pulse Chain. Not 100%, but this is what he was alluding to, and that that the Pulse Chain treasury, in quotations, should be put on that list, because on that list we would be not me or you, but just saying that like the Pulse Chain treasury would be number 2. Are you surprised that Richard said that? Are you surprised that now like this has been, I don't want to say proven, but basically has the speculation no longer is needed in the idea of what's the reserve in this in Pulse Chain and what's not? You understand what you get what I'm saying, right?
Yeah, I think yeah. To answer your question, I think it like his move of. I think it's more of a flex for him more than anything else because he basically wants to send a message loud and clear to the rest of the market, and you know whether people are silent on Richard Hart or not, you know they're all following him. At least they have to be all be following to some extent now that he's got like a sizable following on YouTube X. You know, because I remember back in the day, like you know, for a very long time, like he had a like a decent sized account, but nothing like what it is now.
Right.
So yeah, him making just making that message clear that I mean it's pretty crazy that like that he's got, well, according to that data, he's got the second largest bag of ETH, only less than the Ethereum Foundation.
Yeah, it's wild.
Like, I mean, if that's not a message to the rest of the market as to who out there, like, not only like he wants to see, obviously, you know, naturally the price to go up, along with all the other entities that are on that list, but he's like, you know, he wants to make sure people know that he's got equal to or even much larger financial firepower than a lot of those centralized entities do. And so I think it's extremely bullish that he did that, especially in the context of, especially, and he would have felt comfortable doing that now that all the SEC stuff has been won and is in the past now. So he doesn't have the chokehold of, you know, he doesn't have the SEC breathing down his neck with regard to what he can and can't say in the context of his crypto, like, which is a beautiful thing, especially for someone like yourself or myself as well.
Yeah.
You know, as you know, people that have some voice in the social media world. We have now absolute, you know, a year and a half, like, you know, for the last couple of years up until the official victory, in a lot of ways, people felt that chill effect of feeling like they haven't been able to, you know, feeling censored, not feeling like you can be completely open. And we actually saw a whole bunch of accounts on Twitter X and also a lot of streamers as well. I mean, you could argue that some of them sort of disappeared in certain with the function of protecting themselves because of the level of assault from the SEC and you know the institutional overreach. But now that that's gone, it's now the opposite. Like we can actually get, you know, that much. There's no excuse for not actually. For people in the community who might be, you know, complaining about, you know, the price or whatever else, there's no reason now to feel any kind of fear whatsoever to get their voices out there and to make their own voices heard, and getting loud, talking about this ecosystem. So yeah, so with Richard Hart putting out, and I think that we're going to see more and more tweets like that, where he's going to, you know, humble brag is possibly the term, and he used to do a lot of that back in the day, but he's obviously, you know, had to be muzzled. He was muzzled to a large extent, and actually because of the legal assault, but now that's fully eased up. Yeah, it's despite the Interpol thing sort of looming. But yeah, it's I think at the end of the day, Richard Hart, basically, if people who are not positioned in the ecosystem or that doesn't have any exposure, and then suddenly out of nowhere, Richard Hart decides to, you know, stream aggressively again, or at least as aggressively as how he used to do it, then the sentiment is going to follow that.
Agreed.
And a whole bunch of other factors that could emerge suddenly out of nowhere, which could lead to, which could very probabilistically lead to very high price potential. So yeah, which is the nature of speculation, is that no one wants to get in when the prices are down and sentiment is down.
Of course.
And then when the sentiment swing happens alongside the prices, and people see confirmations, from more and more people. Even just in the last few days, I'll just quickly say that I've noticed a couple of accounts I've never seen before on Twitter X.
Yep.
That said, I bought Hex for the first time. Just announced.
Yep, I saw that too.
And that's the first time I've seen that happen consecutively since I can't even remember how long. And that would be largely due to the legal victory.
Yeah,
it would have to be, because I think people generally that would have had all kinds of reluctancies or hesitancies around investing because of that uncertainty. But having that certainty there now is a massive deal, and I'm very I don't know if excited is the exact word I'm looking for, but I'm definitely looking forward to seeing how everything plays out with the ecosystem over the next few months.
I agree. I think I like what you're going to say. I like what you just said, because I was going to basically say something very similar, that markets crave certainty. They don't like uncertainty, and we can even see this at the macro level with cryptocurrency being stagnating. I was going to say this before, and I totally forgot to mention it. I do believe that the tariff war has played a role in the stagnation of this market. I think that this market right now has been suppressed because risk on assets right now are inherently a risk, no pun intended, to invest in a global market situation that is uncertain whether or not certain trade deals are going to go through, how are these trade deals going to go through, who's in what industries are these going to affect, what goods and services are this going to affect that may affect people's pockets, or personal budgets. What risk appetites is that going to affect? So I think until that calms down, which I think has calmed down a bit. I'm not seeing it talked about as much. A lot of the trade, you're seeing a lot of trade deals with bigger companies now. Bigger countries now, like India, like the UK, for example. I think the big one everyone's waiting for is China and the United States. Only time will tell with that. But I do agree with you 100% that there is the markets do crave certainty, and I just want to say, as much as I'm not streaming as often, I'm still here. I'm still trying to help with growing Pulse Chain. If anybody likes to come on and just chat, like what me and T-Bird and I just did, I'd be happy to do that. And I just want to say to everyone, please subscribe to T-Bird's channel. These are new YouTube content creators that are spreading the word about Pulse Chain. And if you really want to support this ecosystem and support the people who are actually trying to grow it, I would implore all of you to subscribe to T-Bird. So, T-Bird, I really do appreciate your time today, brother.
No, it's a pleasure. Pleasure to talk to you. And big shout out to everyone in the comments. I've been reading through them as the stream has progressed. And thanks for having me on, and looking forward to doing more streams with you in the future.
Absolutely, T-Bird. T-Bird, keep doing what you're doing, man. I know it sucks today. I've had an issue with my equipment at home, so I've had to, because the mic keeps freezing and the camera keeps freezing, so I kind of have to do this with my phone. So I'm trying to fix that. So I may have to get new equipment. So. But yeah, no, I appreciate the feedback. I know the mic does suck today. But T-Bird, thank you so much for your time, brother. And everyone, make sure to like the video, share it, subscribe to T-Bird, subscribe to myself, and cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Okay.